In algebra, we find different problems given where the letter x is attributed to an unknown digit. The problem can't be figured out until you find what that x represents. And most times, once the x is determined, the problem can be solved. But that's just it. When it comes to prophecy, many are forgetting the X factor. Let's talk about it. Hey, this is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. So many people today are saying a financial crisis is just around the corner. So many people today are predicting a food crisis is soon coming. So many people today are saying how World War III is racing towards us. To which I have to agree with just about all of that. But everything that's being said is ultimately based on what's being given from news sources around the world. Now, I'm not discrediting any of this. However, what if the end times are to come even sooner than these people are saying? My concern is that no one is considering how the X factor will come into play. The unseen situation that catches everyone off guard. Everyone. I'm concerned how so many are forgetting Yeshua himself said everything would be cut short, as seen here in Matthew 24:22 and Mark 13:20. I'm concerned how so many seem to forget that Yeshua said all would be good when he returns. If all is at least somewhat good when he returns, then it seems to me he has to return before it all goes bad, as many people are predicting to happen. I'm concerned that so many forget Yeshua is holding the scroll he opened back in Revelation 6 in his hands in Revelation chapter 10. And it's fully opened. And it's then, he says, there will be no more delay. Now, the word in the Greek for delay here is chronos, a word that basically means time. It's where we get the word chronology from. So, there will be no more time. In other words, time's up. The countdown to this time is done. The events of the broken seals now begin. As I've noted in our teaching, as in the days of Noah, and in multiple other teachings on Shavuot, the seals would have been broken on or around the time of Shavuot. But, as we see here in Revelation 10, the events that should take place when those seals are broken have been delayed. They're delayed all the way to chapter 10. We even see the 10 virgins, and that includes the 5 wise, were looking for his return at a certain time. They would have known his appointed times. That's why they were looking when they did. But he didn't come when they expected. Plus, his delay was so long that even they fell asleep. Then we see all 10 virgins are awakened at the same time, at the midnight cry, a time none of them expected. Even at the 6th seal, we see here the kings and generals all finding a place to hide. And remember, this can't be the Battle of Armageddon, as these are the ones who fight Yeshua in that battle. No, this is the beginning of it all, and we see them fleeing to a hiding place. So, while the world leaders have their agenda, Yahweh has his, and we even see that they flee to hide. So, be careful in trusting the timing they point to. Yahweh works on his timing, not theirs. We can't forget that Yahweh tells Amos he will make the feast days of the northern kingdom into a time of mourning. Now, does this apply to his return? Very possible. Plus, we can't forget Yeshua even implied the time of his return would be when the trees are dry. I have a whole teaching on that simply titled, When the Trees Are Dry. In that teaching, I considered several different options regarding the winter. However, one I never considered until now was New Year's Eve. It definitely deals with time being up, and a midnight cry is involved. Over and over again, when Yeshua talks about the sign of his coming, it always involves no one expecting it. Yet, we're told in 1 Thessalonians 5:4 that we aren't in darkness, that this day should take us by surprise. Thus, Yeshua said, "When you see these things begin, look up." What are the things that start these things? Luke says it all starts with Jerusalem being surrounded, a direct reference to Ezekiel 4. Matthew 24 says it all starts with the abomination that causes desolation, standing where it doesn't belong. And Mark 13 says the same thing as Matthew 24. It's very possible the abomination that causes desolation is what causes Jerusalem to be surrounded. I believe it will most likely be the Ark of the Covenant on the Temple Mount. I personally believe this is a direct reference to Ezekiel 8 regarding the idol of jealousy as seen here in Ezekiel 8:5. You can see these teachings if you want to know more on that. That is in Ezekiel chapter 8. Then, in Ezekiel chapter 9, we see a slaughter take place in Jerusalem, most likely from the armies that surround it, and now they're invading. However, how many people today are being just like the Pharisees? The Pharisees thought they knew everything regarding the coming of the Messiah, and yet they missed him. How many today are doing the exact same thing, all the while ignoring Yeshua's very words and how the days would be cut short? He even said the specific days of Daniel will be cut short and directly references Ezekiel 4 regarding Jerusalem being surrounded, a prophecy directly mentioned by Ezekiel, a time frame that gives 40 days to Judah and 390 days to the northern kingdom from the Hebrew, or 150 days from the Greek Septuagint. Either way, that's definitely a shorter time frame from what's given in Daniel. Yet, despite Yeshua's words, so many want to point to the long time frames found in Daniel. Please remember, Daniel himself was told it would be cut short at the end of his book. He was told it would be for only a time, times, and a half a time. In the Hebrew, it says for a moed, a moedim, and a chatzi. Those are his appointed times as noted in Leviticus chapter 23, what many refer to as feasts. That's why Daniel didn't understand. He was confused about it. Yet, so many refer to the various days and the 70 weeks of Daniel, ignoring the fact that even Daniel was told they would be shortened. Plus, again, Yeshua said those days of Daniel would be shortened. So, what am I saying in all of this? First, the 3.5 moed spoken to Daniel at the end of his writings can fit within the 5 months, the 150 days of Ezekiel 4, as noted in our addendum to our teaching, the second Passover and the coming storm. This will most likely be the time the Antichrist begins his attack on the saints, that being around the time of second Passover. Things will most likely begin sometime in the winter when the trees are dry, all leading up to the Antichrist taking his place around the time of first Passover, and then beginning his pursuit of believers around the time of second Passover. Lastly, I believe everyone needs to be careful in saying phrases like, "This is how it's going to play out," or "This is the way it has to be," or "This is the certain year it all has to come to pass." Everything in the past was given to us as patterns. But even those patterns regarding time are thrown out the window because it's all cut short. In fact, if you don't have a scenario that goes in accordance to the 3.5 moedim as concluded with Daniel 12, and the 40 days with the 150 days given in Ezekiel 4 as referenced by Yeshua, I believe you need to rethink your end time considerations. That's Daniel, Ezekiel, and Yeshua all in alignment. The X Factor is going to change everything. It will throw everything out the window. As I've said before, the closer we get to His return, the more I believe we can know that day. So, while we all continue to watch and pray for Yeshua's return, as we all continue to watch world events unfold before us, may we never forget how the X Factor will play a major role into how it all plays out. So, in your studying and watching, please don't forget to consider how the X Factor will play a role. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.